First, I just want to start off by just congratulating Morgan Burnett. I scouted him out of Georgia Tech, so just what an amazing 10-year career. He did everything the right way. Just a class act all the way. So, if you have any questions about Morgan, anybody?
Hey, Brian, I'll ask one thing about him quick. Just what did you think about his versatility throughout the course of his career? I remember they put him down in the box doing the nitro thing. What do you think that said about him and just the different roles he kind of played for this team?
Well, first of all, his willingness to kind of do anything we asked him to do, that was pretty impressive. When we drafted him, I mean, we kind of like Darren Sharper back in the day, we kind of thought he had a corner skill set as well. We weren't sure exactly where he was going to land, but he was an unselfish team player, and he was going to kind of do whatever we asked him to do and do it with maximum effort. Any more questions on Morgan? Gotcha. Just want to thank all the guys, all the players, for their hard work through this process. Obviously through OTAs and training camp and all the energy and effort they put into this. It's a really hard day to make these decisions, to get down to this point. But obviously we've talked a lot about how I look at it more at 69. We're going through that process right now. So, but I think their work. We had a really good group this year. Proud of the way they worked and what they did. I'll take questions.
Brian, what went into the thinking to keeping only 2 running backs on the initial 53?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes to that 69 thing I'm talking about. I think with the flexibility of the elevations and stuff, as we kind of started to break this up, we thought that was probably best for our football team. Just and as we get through this practice squad, having some guys in the practice squad that if we need to bring up, we can. I think also the emergence of Amari Rogers with doing some stuff back there, I think on game day, can help us as well. So we have some flexibility there, so that was kind of part of the decision.
On the defensive line, what was the thinking there? Where if you look at the numbers and the impact, Jack and Slayton had more plays than Ford did.
Yeah, that's kind of out of Jonathan's control. How many snaps he gets, but certainly when Jonathan was in there, he did a nice job. And big upside with Jonathan. We're excited about developing him along with the other guys. Hopeful to keep those guys on the practice squad. Those guys have been in the league for a couple of years. Obviously, Jonathan, this was his first year, so we're excited about our defensive line group. We think it's very deep. If we have to dig into that depth this year, we feel pretty good about it.
Abernathy wasn't here very long. What did he show you in that short time to make it like keeping?
Yeah, I mean, talk about a guy that took advantage of his opportunities. And I'll just kind of get this out here now. So we signed Rudy Ford today, and so we will release Micah today, and he'll go on waivers today. We're hopeful to get him back to the practice squad as well. But you talk about a guy that took advantage of his opportunities. I think it really goes to show a guy that had some opportunities early in his career and it didn't work out for him. And just getting himself, prepared through the USFL and all the different leagues he played in, because he got here really late and hit the ground running. And every time he got an opportunity, he certainly took advantage of it.
So, Brian, you have obviously a good idea of your core. Do you bring guys in, even at the start of camp, with that relaxed practice squad elevations in mind, that you're thinking, all right, we can look at this guy for a month, and that might be
Absolutely. I think from the time I've started working here, we've tried to trim the back end of the roster as much as we can. Take a look at guys. I think that's really, really important. So when I think I started, it was maybe 8 practice squad guys, maybe when I started, maybe even less. Now we have 16, so there's probably more opportunities to do that, So I think we're constantly looking to take a look at players, see how they fit within our culture, within our team, and try to get better.
What did Enekbare show you midway through camp? Because it seemed like he just had maybe a bit of a slow start as a rookie, and then a light came on. And what do you think he can give for you as depth on the edge?
Well, like most rookies, I think the thing we're always trying to do is get these guys into a comfort zone, right? To know what they're supposed to do so that their talents can come out. And I think most of these guys go through a period where they're going to struggle. And sometimes they start out really, really good because it's just all instinctive. And then as the playbook gets heavy on them, they'll slow down. And then once they kind of start to get it, and I think that was exactly kind of what happened with him. Everything we saw in college started to come out, that second half of training camp. And we're excited about him kind of being part of that rotation.
Brian, you mentioned, I think you mentioned the upside of Jonathan Ford. You've kept, I think, all but one of your draft picks the last 2 years on the open, on the initial 53. Is it just because you guys saw so much upside in all these guys, and that's why you drafted it, that you want to see it through? Is that why your tendency is to keep these guys a little bit longer, maybe?
I don't know if that's the reason that's why we keep them. I think certainly when we invest in these guys, there's a reason. and however many weeks in training camp they're here in OTAs, that's a part of it. But there's also a lot of work on these guys, not only the draft picks, but the undrafted free agents and even the guys we pick up off the street. I mean, we're watching these guys, and there's a lot of investment and time into what these guys are. So I think you weigh a lot of different things, but it's not simply just because they're drafted. I think it's because of the work we've done on them and where we think they're going to be down the road.
Specifically with Toure, what did you see in him in camp that gave him an edge over Winfrey in that?
Yeah.
season?
Yeah, those are some tough calls. I think, obviously, I think you guys kind of saw, Samari really kind of, started to really kind of excel towards the second half of training camp. Obviously, that last preseason game, he did a lot of really nice things. But, those are tough calls. Juwan's a guy we're hopeful to get back to the practice squad because he certainly can play a factor here for us as well. But yeah, that was a tough call. But Samari, I think his ability in the slot and his ability to get open and separate and some of those things really intrigue us.
Juwan is not Jake Kumro, but he's a guy that your quarterback likes an awful lot and was pretty vocal publicly about that. Was the process and releasing Juwan any different than when you released Jake in terms of bringing in Aaron and consulting and getting his opinion?
Yeah, I would say Aaron's involvement is much different than it was back then. It's kind of constant, and there's many conversations go on throughout, whenever he's here, when he was here for the mandatory mini camp, and then even through this training camp, they're pretty constant conversations. Obviously, he's kind of kept up to date more so maybe than he was back then, and his input is really valuable for me from the aspect that he has a different perspective on a lot of things than coaches, scouts, and anybody else in the building because he's in that locker room. So. That's very beneficial to how we go about our business, and I'm glad that he's part of it. So it is much different than back then.
Brian,
How do you feel
that you liked signing him?
Yeah, obviously Rudy's a very accomplished special teams player in this league. He's one of the better gunners in the league. He's got kind of a speed and physicality that we certainly covet. So, we were kind of looking at that situation for a while. A little surprised that he got shaken loose, but when he did, we were kind of ready to get on that. And so hopefully he can get here and get acclimated soon. So he's not only on special teams, but then on defense as well.
Along those lines, Brian, just bigger picture, not just forward, but how do you feel about what you've done personnel-wise for special teams this year?
Yeah, I think we've done a little bit of things that might be out of character for us, as far as some of the guys we brought in that maybe don't play as big a role on offense or defense, but maybe they're more heavy special teams players. So we'll kind of see how that goes. We got to get better there to accomplish the goals that this team wants to accomplish. We have to be better. I think we will be, and we've certainly invested a lot in that, not only Coach Bisaccia, but some of the guys we brought in.
I mean, what do you give up when you do that? Because you haven't done it as a team, Ted, et cetera. So I understand the upside of hopefully improving your special teams. What's the downside?
Yeah, I mean, there's risk with anything, right? So I think, and it's this, as we sit here today, this is one step. Our roster will continue to change this week and next week and the week after. But I think it's something that we have not been good enough for a while now, that we needed to kind of get outside our comfort zone and do something different. So I'm very, very hopeful that this is going to get it done, and I have a lot of faith in it. But it's one of those things we're going to continue to kind of churn that to make sure we get that right during the season.
Was Mason a no-brainer, or were there any lingering concerns?
Mason? Yeah, we're very hopeful Mason's going to be back on time. We still have a little ways to go. So, the plan is to bring Ramiz back to the practice squad and have him there in case we don't get there. But he's progressing really nicely, and we expect him to kick game one, but we'll be prepared if he doesn't.
What does it say about keeping every one of your draft picks when you have such a large draft class?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what does it say?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we got them right. We'll see. It was very early in their career. No, I think, it's just we bring players onto this team in all different ways. And we're not really concerned with how they get here. It's just what they do when they get here. So I'm excited for those guys. It's early in their career. I think there's going to be some guys in that class that really impact us this year and help us. And I'm sure there's other guys that are going to take a little while to develop. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, the one thing about, I think all these guys have to realize is that today's a good day for a lot of them because they made the squad or the practice squad. But at the same time, I mean, you guys know how the National Football League is. This can be very short-lived if they don't continue to work and to grind and to do the things that they need to do. So, again, I think it's celebratory for them because they're in the National Football League. But that is very day-to-day in this world.
How
much did,
How you feel about Rashawn and Preston, but keeping 5 players at that edge, outside linebacker position, do you feel differently about your depth today at that position than you did at the start of camp?
I think that, I mean, obviously, we had some guys with Rashawn and Preston and Jonathan Garvin coming back. JJ's really the only new one, and obviously Tipa's there as well. So really, 4 of those guys have been here. We know what those guys are, and I think, certainly some of those guys have grown. I think, Jonathan and Tipa have really taken nice steps. Now, obviously, Preston and 52 they're real deal players, so, I think for us, as we go through it, when Rashawn and Preston come off the field, those other guys, they got to hold their own, whether that's on first and second down and more in the run game, or if we need to spell them as pass rushers. But I'm excited not only with that group, but the inside group as well. I think it's, as a whole, our linebackers with our inside and outside linebackers are much more versatile and different than we've had for a while.
how much did special teams kind of influence the bottom of the roster decisions with the fringe
A lot.
guys?
Yeah, I think a lot.
Was it more than in the past?
Yes, yeah, I think so. I think really the approach heading into OTAs and camp and some of the players we tried to acquire was a little different. It's not that we haven't always tried to acquire good special teams players, but I think we've always tried to acquire good special teams players that really had a role on defense. And our special teams players we acquired do have a role on defense, but they're already accomplished special teams players, so to speak. So, yeah, it was different.
Can you quantify how many, without saying who, how many guys maybe made it specifically?
Yeah, not really.
How,
I think-
how large was that group for you?
Yeah, but I mean, there's a bunch of the guys that are here now. There's a bunch that aren't here now. So there was a bunch. I think, again, our process is our process. But as we went through, I think the realization, we have a new special teams coach that's doing some things differently, and kind of looking at how he's doing things and maybe the things that he needs, was a big part of every discussion when we were looking at the different personnel packages that we were doing.
As you went through the process, were you thinking that not only a different coordinator, but a philosophical change in how you approach personnel and special teams was required?
I think a little bit, yeah. I think any time, you've gone a little length of time and not have the success that we've had, you got to be willing to change a little bit. So we certainly have. It's not an overhaul, with the way we go about it, but again, just a little bit more emphasis and willingness to trade, that special teams skill set for maybe something else.
Speaking of your process being your process, how has your process evolved as the preseason games have changed?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that it's like choosing a small school guy versus a big school guy, but you look at things differently when guys are doing stuff against 2s and 3s and there aren't many starters playing. Samori had a really good final preseason
Sure.
game. There were some other guys that also flashed in the preseason that you're just going to put on the practice squad. How has it kind of affected your view of those games?
Are you talking about just the 3 versus the 4 and how that goes?
So Tyler Goodson had a really good productive preseason, but as you talked about with special teams, and
Yeah.
That's not necessarily going to be enough to get you a roster spot right away.
Yeah. No, I don't know if anything's changed. I think, when we went from, 4 to 3, and I think that's the right thing. I think that's enough for us. But at the same time, you really do value those preseason games because while practice is really important, and that is a very good evaluation, and the joint practices are great, in the uncontrolled environment of a preseason game and seeing those guys make the decisions, they really do help from an evaluation perspective. So, and that's what counts. I mean, at the end of the day, because no one's out there with you when you get into the season. So, I found myself wanting that extra one. We don't have it, and that's fine. But I think it's better, for the players. But nothing's really changed from how we go about it. I do think Matt's been really good about, as we go through it, understanding maybe some of the things we need to see to make the evaluations we need to make and making those changes as we go, which has been nice.
Brian, are you satisfied with your O-line depth, considering the obvious questions, and you've got a couple of rookies that you kept who probably aren't ready to go?
Yeah, no, I do. I like our group. I think we got, obviously we've got some very established players in that room, and certainly the health of the 2 tackles coming back, I think, is obviously a big thing. But I think that we have enough depth there, and I really like kind of the youth and what their upside is down the road. But it'll be nice to get those two tackles back, and it's been good seeing them out on the field this week.
Two more, please.
You said you're hopeful for Crosby week 1, but the way Rahmet played this training camp, does that directly impact Crosby's status for week 1 a little bit?
I think when Mason's ready to kick and he's fully ready to go, he'll kick for us, and I think Ramiz did a great job while he was here, and we're excited to get him back on the practice squad to kind of see how he grows as well. And I do think that if for some reason Mason can't go, that we have a very capable guy to go in there and make those kicks if we need.
Could you, with all the talk about special teams, these specialists know that they're competing against guys on other rosters, et cetera. Are you gonna go with Jack Coco then into the opener, or is that still up for grabs?
No, that's the plan right now. I think Jack's done a really good job. He didn't have a lot of experience as a long snapper coming into this, and he's really progressed nicely. I think he's a culture fit for us. I think he's done a really nice job with the things that Rich has asked him to do, and we're excited about him doing that. At the same time, I will say, and this is not just the long snapper, but we will be looking at all positions from now to the start of the season and during the season to upgrade if we can. That's kind of just business as usual.